You don't need more motivation. You've heard every quote, watched every video, read every book, and still there's that quiet hesitation before action. That split second where your mind tries to pull you back, tries to talk you out of it. That voice in your head is a master manipulator. It whispers things that feel true but are rooted in fear. We're tired, you've got time, do it tomorrow. It's not the right moment. The worst part? You believe it. Not because it's wise, but because it's comfortable. Because that voice doesn't want you to grow. It wants you to stay safe, changed, untested, uninspired. But understand this. That voice is not your ally. It is your greatest enemy. And every time you listen, it gains more control. The battlefield isn't out there. It's inside you. The real war isn't against your boss, your past, your circumstances, or your so-called limitations. It's between the part of you that wants comfort and the part of you that wants greatness. One side begs for the couch, the other for the climb. One side says arrest, the other screams arise. Every morning you wake up a soldier, whether you like it or not. And the fight. It begins the second you open your eyes. That fight doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're broken, if you're scared, if you failed yesterday. The only thing it respects is movement. Because the only way to win this war is to act. You don't negotiate with the enemy. You crush it with action. When you hesitate, you give the enemy ground. When you delay, you give it strength. But when you move, especially when you don't want to, you reclaim it. That's what it means to force yourself to take action. It's not supposed to feel good. It's not supposed to feel easy. It's supposed to feel like resistance. Because you are pushing against the strongest force there is, your old self, the version of you that settles, avoids, waits. And every time you break through that barrier, every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you begin to destroy that weaker version of yourself. Not with violence, but with choice, with repetition, with relentless motion, and with time, something incredible happens. The more you act against that voice, the quieter it becomes. Not because it disappears, but because it learns. It learns that you're not listening anymore. You've shifted. You've decided. You've become someone who doesn't wait to feel ready. Someone who moves because the mission matters more than the mood. And that shift, that's how the war is won. Not in one moment, not in one grand burst of energy, but in the quiet, brutal consistency of action when it's hardest. So remember this. When the war within feels strongest, that's when your victory is closest. That's when your breakthrough is right behind the resistance. All you have to do is move. They told you that motivation is the key, that if you just waited long enough, the spark would come. That eventually you'd wake up with fire in your chest and a plan in your head and everything would fall into place. But here's the raw truth. Motivation is a liar. It's inconsistent. It shows up when it wants to, not when you need it most. Waiting on motivation is like waiting for the wind to blow your ship in the right direction. It might happen, but you'll probably drift aimlessly for far too long. The people who succeed, who break barriers, who transform their lives, they're not riding a wave of constant inspiration. They're moving forward even when they feel absolutely nothing. Because they understand something most don't. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. The problem is, we've romanticized motivation. We've made it the golden ticket, the magical force that makes discipline easy and success automatic. But motivation is just an emotion, and like all emotions, it's fleeting. You don't control when it shows up. What you do control, what you own every single day, is your decision to act in spite of how you feel. You wake up tired, you act anyway. You feel overwhelmed, you act anyway. You don't know where to start, you act anyway. That's where real progress is born, not in moments of excitement, but in the discipline of moving forward, even when your soul feels still. The myth of motivation keeps people stuck in cycles of waiting, waiting to be ready, waiting to feel passionate, waiting for clarity. But clarity comes through motion, and passion is often found on the other side of resistance. Every small action you take chips away at doubt. Every step forward silences the inner voice that says you can't. You don't need a massive breakthrough to change your life. You need a single act of courage repeated daily. That's the secret no one tells you. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you do when you don't feel anything at all. Because that's where strength is built. Not when you're excited, but when you're exhausted. Not when the path is clear, but when it's clouded by uncertainty and fear. You don't build muscle by lifting what's easy, and you don't build character by waiting for the mood to strike. You build it by doing the hard thing over and over again until it becomes who you are. And then, suddenly, you find that the feeling you were waiting for, it was forged in the fires of your own consistency. If you want to change your life, stop trying to feel your way into action. Start acting your way into feelings. Take the first step, then the next. Watch what happens when you stop waiting to be inspired and start becoming the kind of person who moves regardless. The person who doesn't need perfect conditions or loud applause. The person who doesn't stall at the first sign of fatigue. That version of you is already there, beneath the surface, waiting for action to bring it to life. You don't need a miracle. You don't need a sign. You need a decision, a choice to move when it matters most. And the truth is, it always matters most when you least feel like doing it. That's the price of greatness. That's the truth about progress. That's how you break the myth of motivation, by refusing to need it. Perfection is the prettiest lie you'll ever be told. It whispers in your ear, promising that if you just wait a little longer, plan a little better, polish a little more, you'll finally be ready. It seduces you with the illusion of control, making you believe that success only belongs to those who get it all right the first time. But what it's really doing is locking you in place. Perfection convinces you to hesitate. It tells you to keep thinking, keep tweaking, keep preparing until the moment passes and your momentum dies. And that's the real cost, not just time, but opportunity. The truth is, no one ever built something great by trying to get it perfect first. Greatness is forged through friction, through messy starts, awkward tries, and uncomfortable learning curves. The people you admire didn't wait to be perfect. They moved while they were uncertain. They built while they were bleeding. They launched before they were ready. Perfectionism is procrastination wearing a mask. It's fear disguised as diligence. It tricks you into believing that you're making progress when really you're just standing still in a well-decorated cage. You think you're refining your plan, but you're just avoiding execution. You think you're protecting your reputation, but you're really protecting your ego from the possibility of failure. The truth? Every time you stall in the name of getting it right, you rob yourself of the chance to get it done. Real progress comes from doing it badly at first, from pushing through the embarrassment, the doubt, the cringe-worthy beginnings. And every time you choose to act in spite of imperfection, you train yourself to become resilient. You teach yourself that courage matters more than polish and that motion is the only thing that transforms potential into power. There is no perfect moment. There is no perfect version of your work. And there is certainly no perfect version of you waiting to arrive someday in the future. There is only now and what you choose to do with it. The person who takes one imperfect step today is already further ahead than the person who's been waiting 6 months to take a flawless leap. Life doesn't reward the person with the best plan. It rewards the one who moves when it's hard, messy, or unclear. The sooner you let go of the fantasy of perfection, the sooner you step into your real strength. The kind that can take a hit, get back up, learn, and keep building. That's how momentum is created. Not from flawlessness, but from bold, consistent, imperfect action that refuses to stop. The lie of perfection is that it protects you from judgment. But the deeper truth is this: you will be judged anyway, whether you act or not, whether you fail or freeze. So why not be judged for building something real? Why not let your mistakes become stepping stones instead of shackles? Done is always better than perfect. Progress is always louder than potential. The people who rise are not the ones who waited until everything looked right. They're the ones who moved before they felt ready and trusted they'd figure it out along the way. If you want to grow, let go. Let go of the need to control every outcome, every detail, every variable, and trade it in for something far more powerful: momentum. Relentless, unstoppable, imperfect momentum. Pain. The one thing we're all taught to avoid, to numb, to silence. We run from it, pretend it isn't there, disguise it with distractions, and label it as weakness. But what if that's the biggest misunderstanding of all? So, what if pain isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of your power? Every struggle you faced, every heartbreak, every failure, every dark night you didn't think you'd survive. That wasn't the breaking of you, that was the shaping. The fire didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal what you're made of. Because comfort never taught anyone how to fight. Success never taught anyone how to get back up. And peace never created a warrior. But pain is the great awakener. It strips away the excuses, the lies, the fluff. It exposes who you really are, and it offers you a choice: hide from it or rise because of it. There's a hidden strength in pain if you're willing to lean into it instead of backing away. Every person who's ever done something extraordinary has a story laced with suffering. Not because they were lucky to endure it, but because they chose not to let it define them. They let it forge them. Pain is a mirror. It shows you the gap between who you are and who you can. It brings your deepest fears, insecurities, and doubts to the surface so you can confront them and conquer them. Most people run from that mirror. But you have the chance to look straight into it and say, "Oh, this is the fire I was born to walk through." You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when you're bruised, bloody, and broken, but you still keep moving. That is power in its purest form, choosing forward motion when every muscle in your body wants to stop. Think about it. When did you change the most? When life was smooth or when everything fell apart? Growth doesn't happen in the light. It happens in the pressure and the loss and the storm. You don't become resilient by coasting. You become resilient when you're knocked down so hard you don't recognize yourself, and still you choose to stand. That is the moment pain becomes purpose. That is the turning point where victims become leaders, where the shattered become strong. The world may try to sell you ease, but ease won't change you. Pain will, not because it's pleasant, but because it's powerful. It wakes you up. It pushes you beyond your limits. And when you stop resisting it, you start transforming through it. You become the kind of person who's unshaken by adversity, not because they've never hurt, but because they learn to rise while hurting. And here's the truth most people will never say out loud. Your greatest strength will come from your deepest wound. The very thing you thought would break you is the thing building you. If you want to lead, to build, to become unshakable, you must stop seeing pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. Pain is the universe sharpening you, hardening you, preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine right now. You are not a victim of what happened. You are a vessel of what's possible. Let every scar remind you of how far you've come. Not how much you've lost, but how much you've endured. And let that endurance become energy. Let it become your edge. Because when you stop fearing pain and start feeding on it, you become a force that nothing can break. There comes a moment when action stops being something you do and starts becoming something you are. This is the moment where everything changes. Not just your habits, not just your goals, but your identity. Up until now, you may have seen yourself as someone who tries, someone who hopes, someone who wants to be better. But there's a massive difference between someone who wants to change and someone who has changed. The first is tied to the outcome. The second is fused with the process. Most people live their lives on the surface, patching together temporary motivation and short-term fixes, constantly swinging between effort and excuses. But those who transform, they go deeper. They rewrite the story of who they believe they are. And when that identity changes, everything else follows. You cannot outperform the person you believe yourself to be. You can force action for a while. You can grind it out through willpower. But if, deep down, you still see yourself as the unmotivated one, the inconsistent one, the person who never quite follows through, then that identity will sabotage your progress every single time. That's why the shift has to start on the inside. You must begin to act like the person you want to become, even before you believe it fully. Because beliefs follow behavior. And the more consistently you act in alignment with a new identity, the stronger that belief becomes. You don't have to wait to feel like a disciplined person. You start behaving like one. You show up, you execute, and soon you realize you are that person now. There's a deep psychological shift that happens when you stop saying, "I want to wake up early," and start saying, "I'm the kind of person who doesn't hit snooze." When you stop saying, "I'm trying to be healthier," and start declaring, "I don't skip workouts." This is the power of identity-based action. It's no longer about forcing behavior. It's about becoming the person for whom those behaviors are normal. And this isn't just a motivational idea. It's brain science. Your brain is constantly looking for evidence to confirm your identity. So when your actions align with a stronger version of yourself, your brain rewires. You become more confident, more focused, more powerful. And soon you don't need motivation to take action. You're pulled by who you are, not pushed by how you feel.